Welcome to our Summer Cial special bonus episodes of the Food Professor podcast, presented by Cattle.
As the official podcast for the Cial Food Innovation Show this year in Montreal, Sylvain and I had the opportunity to interview the leading thought leaders, brands, and makers in the food industry. As the saying goes, these are their stories. On this episode, Sylvain and I sit down with Daniel Jurkovic, co-owner at Putters, Inc., for a fascinating conversation and entrepreneurial journey that quickly became a lot more than Daniel bargained for when another major pickle brand supplier got into financial difficulties in the heart of the super tight window that is the cucumber harvest season. Daniel and the team marshaled their talents and resources. They came to the rescue of Canadian farmers and now look ahead to building their commercial international business and their brand, Putters.
All right. We're still at Cial, live in Montreal, Cial 2024. It's been great so far, isn't it, Michael?
It's fantastic. I mean, my neck is sore because my head keeps turning around so much as I walk the aisles.
Yeah.
So much great stuff to see. I stopped by our guest booth and had some amazing products, so I'm very happy we're here to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have here with us Daniel Jurkovic, co-president of Putters.
That's right. It's what
Putters.
pronounced. Putters Pickles, yeah.
Putters Pickles.
Yeah,
hey,
right.
Great story. I know a bit about the story because I read the newspapers. It's just an amazing story. I call it the Leamington story of Quebec, or sort of thing. And it basically raised from the ashes sort of thing.
Geez, you got me intrigued now. I want to hear this story.
I knew you didn't know about it.
I didn't know the story.
So that's why I wanted Daniel here, so he can tell us the story, the entire thing.
This is what we do. We tell innovative company stories. You tell the story, but we want to make sure everybody knows about it.
Well, you know what? Many people don't know the story, and it's a really great story. I mean, for some, not so great, but we did what we could.
Exactly.
So we've been around since 1948. We've been a private label manufacturer, primarily.
Mm-hmm.
So the brand wasn't known, the company wasn't known because we're not front-facing, with the
business
the retailers.
To business, more
it's
business
B2B,
Yep.
a lot of Canada, mostly a lot of US. So a very high-end product that nobody really knows comes from Quebec,
Yeah.
And whereabouts in Quebec?
In Saint-Sophie, Quebec, and now in Saint-Hyacinthe as well. Right?
And is that where you hail from? Are you born and raised there as well?
Well, that's where the company was founded there in 48. It's a third-generation company.
Mm-hmm.
My partner and I came into that company 4 years ago. We bought in. The family's still with us. And
what's your partner's name?
John Tartaglia.
Okay.
So we were bankers. We were corporate bankers, and we decided, kind of like you guys, during the COVID days, that it was time for change,
Right.
So you were in banking, both of you.
Yeah.
And then you left to go into the food business.
Yes, we did. We were actually corporate bankers. We were on the buy side. We did a lot of M&A. We helped a lot of people buy companies. We helped a lot of companies acquire companies, grow their businesses.
And eventually you're sitting there and you're going, hey, we could do this. Why don't we do this for ourselves?
Yeah, to a certain extent. You think you can do it, right? You think you can do it. But COVID also, reoriented a lot of people, opened up a lot of opportunities. It was a tough time for everyone, but it was an opportune time, kind of like for yourselves, right?
Yeah.
And that enabled us to find the courage, make the jump, leave, lucrative careers, jobs, because of unhappiness, and go into something.
Investment banking is a tough life, right?
Yeah, corporate investment banking. It's tough. It's a great job. It's it's long hours and it is rewarding. However, when you're in the food business, when people are eating your product, when you're employing personnel, when you see concrete result into what you're doing every single day, and when you see how you're contributing to the overall ecosystem with producers, farmers, like from the ground up all the way into the jar, and tens of millions of people eating your product. It's hard to replicate that with anything else.
That's right, absolutely. So, tell us about how your company was kind of born, or kind of came back from the dead, I guess.
So we spent 3 years, in optimizing the business, helping the family. They did an amazing job getting it to where it was. But, obviously with the growth and with the amazing product that just kept growing exponentially every single year, came pressures on all ends. HR, quality control, sophistication. We had to bring in consultants. We had to bring in structure. We had to bring in human capital. It was a whole thing. And then, just at the time where we thought we were about to hit an autopilot and, try to, I guess, take the fruit from our labor and finally focus a little bit on things like sales and things like, developing the business
the
itself.
basics, yeah.
Our main, I would say, competitor to a certain degree, right? We were in different
And the
businesses.
name of the competitor was?
It was White's Foods.
White's Foods.
White's Foods.
Does that
went
ring the
under.
bell?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
So White's Foods should ring a bell with the brands that they had and they were making. So they had Coronation.
Oh, right.
They had
Okay.
Strubs.
Strubs. That's
They
the one.
had
that was-
Whites.
Yeah.
They had a great company.
You see,
really
got to
good
help
people.
Michael, he's
Yeah.
got to catch up. Got to be small words.
And they're a really large company. 3 plants, 1 large distribution center, the largest player in the country. And, they ran into some trouble. It's hard being a transformer manufacturer in Canada, right? As you guys know. They had to go through COVID, obviously, a large expansion, and then, getting hit by COVID during the expansion. It just, a lot of things I think aligned in the wrong direction, maybe a perfect storm. I mean, we weren't there, but, we know the people well. They're great people.
Sometimes negative momentum.
Yeah.
It's hard to break out of a negative momentum when it starts, particularly during the COVID era, right?
For sure. And then the interest rates where they went, and then your cost of borrowing is not the same. The banks are getting more anxious, tightening. It was just the perfect storm for them, And they tried to do what they could, right, to get out of it. But, unfortunately, as it happened to many different manufacturers in the past in Canada, they weren't able to get out of it. So, there was a bankruptcy, creditors, the whole thing, lost jobs, that, had a major, major impact on our industry because the pickle industry is a stable industry, and it's been stable for some time. They consolidated a lot of it, by buying out different, like Strubs back in the day, Miss Whites, they bought back in the day as well. So, and unfortunately, they went under. So a giant went under, and just when that happened, we were kind of like,
what do we do?
Yeah, what do we do at this point? And
I'll call my banker.
Well, yeah, I'll call my banker because at the end of the day, we didn't see this as an opportunity at all. We saw it as oh my God, this is going to have a huge impact on the industry overall because our farmers are fully dependent on this volume and on this crop.
And we're talking about how many farmers here?
Well, we're talking about at least 30 large producers.
And that's all they did?
Across Quebec and Ontario.
They produce pickles.
Yeah. Well, pickles are key, right? Now, to make a parallel here on pickles and on cucumbers that are being grown, cucumbers are a key crop because cucumbers employ foreign workers during the early months. So July, August, right? During those 6 weeks, all those foreign workers that the farmers bring in, they need to work, they need to do something. Because the stuff that moves a lot, the carrots and all that stuff like cabbage, and it comes a bit later, right? It comes in after September. So then you have pickles, or cucumbers, sorry.
Yeah.
Everybody on the radio, pickles are actually cucumbers.
Yeah.
I think that's the title of the episode. Pickles are actually cucumbers.
That's right. So the people at your booth were pickles or cucumbers?
Well, they're
were
in
pretty
between.
big.
They're in between,
That was a great visual.
Yeah, we call them super pickles,
Yeah.
And so, you have the cucumbers, then you have the peppers, and then you have different things that come out that are used in the market, les produits maraîchers,
Exactly.
So, super key crop. So when they went under, it was just around June, July that we started. We had to make a decision, right? We needed to bridge the farmers that were
So you were worried that the supplier community was going to collapse, which would endanger your business.
Everything would collapse. Everything would collapse because we were the major purchaser in Quebec. They were the major purchaser in Ontario, and they had a huge contract, in Ontario, with a large chain, a large brand, and we did what we could, right? At the time, based on our financial capacity, and what we could do, we decided to do everything we could do in our power to salvage manufacturing in Quebec. So we bought assets in their 2 plants. We consolidated them in the Saint Louis plant, which is next to Saint Hyacinthe.
Yeah.
Mostly a food service plant. They had a Saint Rose facility as well, which we bought a bunch of equipment from, consolidated there as well, and we tried to save as many jobs as possible in Saint Louis while bridging the farmers, bridging the crop, taking on all these cucumbers into our facility and not having a home for them, right? So major gamble in a situation where you're like, well, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, you know?
How did the farmers feel at the time? I mean, I'm sure they were just...
Sheer panic.
Yeah.
Sheer panic. Some guys were like, well, if this happens, we're done, right?
You're the only customer they have.
So what are we going to do with the foreign workers? What are we going to do with the crop? There's only so much insurance we can go and get, right? And some guys don't even get it.
That's why I'm making the parallel with Leamington and tomatoes. That's kind of what happened, really, when Heinz left. You had 50 farmers with no clients.
With no buyer for their product that was already on the vine, basically.
Exactly.
So it sounds like a story of greatness thrust upon you, so to speak.
Well, I don't know if it's greatness. It's just sheer panic and sleepless nights.
It's interesting because we talk to brands, very very new brands, but we talk to brands who've been like yourself or the origin of the company been around a long time. And one of the questions I always have is, how do you see growth and innovation? Right. So growth kind of got, so to speak, probably ahead of any timeline you had in your mind when you started the first phrase. My God, I didn't think I'd grow this big. But you ingested, so to speak, all that new equipment and all that new product. And
we ingested, exactly.
And that was, just so we're clear, what year was that?
So this happened last year.
This was
the last crop.
Oh, yeah, it's within the last 12 months, I guess.
Yeah, this was the last crop. So the crop came in. Crop is in mid-July to end of August. We started talks with them, before that.
Yeah.
But everything, we had to swallow up the crop last year. And integrate, new machinery, new equipment. They did food service, to a large scale.
It's insane.
It was insane.
Well, I mean, the good news is you're sitting here and you have a booth, which means you're starting to turn your mind towards sales. So it sounds like it was a happy. I mean, you worked through it. Congratulations.
Well, when you go through it, you don't know it's going to be an happy ending.
Well, got to do what you got to do.
It is a happy ending, which is great.
I mean, we're still not out of the water yet. Right?
Oh, of course,
we're not out of the tunnel. Because, you have to, again, we lack a bit of experience in this field, right? 4 years into it, it's not like...
but you must be incredibly proud of what you've accomplished so far. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, right? I mean, we are. I mean, everybody helped. We're not alone in this, right? Farm Capital Canada was involved. They were involved. They had exposure with the farmers. They had exposure with White's Foods.
Oh, I see.
They had exposure. So they were... they were in a bad spot as well. And we were...
Well, I can only assume that there were some issues with FCC
for sure,
wanting to bridge both.
But at the same time, with an investment background, you would know the concept of escalating commitment to a losing course of action scenario, and you don't want to get on the wrong side of that scenario with the banks, right?
And you're dealing with creditors, you're dealing with people that want...
Why would I give you another $1? You tell me you give me my 10 back, but maybe you won't. Maybe I'll just write it off. Maybe it's sunk cost.
Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, we were catapulted back into our old world to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Which we kind of understood.
Uniquely qualified. Like it's funny the way
everything was. It aligned perfectly for us to execute on the situation. I think somebody would that didn't have our background would have had a hard time to navigate through these waters with the legal. You're going to insolvency law. You're dealing with...
I've been there. It's a whole different world.
The thing about your story, Daniel, is that you were a non-ag person. I mean, you're typically in the food industry. You see a lot of family businesses. You see a lot of farmers that go from one generation to another. That's all they know. And a shift in paradigms is difficult. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
You came in with a fresh look. With a different look, a different perspective, and you dealt with a crisis. I mean, a company was in crisis, but you had solutions, you had a different approach, and you implemented your vision into that to salvage as much as you could.
Yeah, and you don't know what you're doing, right? It's instinct. You're just going. instinct, feeling.
Were you always like when you were growing up? Did you always want to be in business? Was that your path?
I was always very entrepreneurial. I think I had success at the bank because I was entrepreneurial. You know.
So this was always kind of in your DNA.
Not only
right?
my story as well. My partner John as well. You know, very entrepreneurial, and we always connected well with the entrepreneurs. Did well at the bank because. We created special bonds.
And you could relate to them because you
yes,
kind of. But it's one thing to relate to them, another thing to be one.
Oh yeah,
that's a whole different thing.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about the product. I visited the booth and I had some of your fantastic product. What's two questions for you? One is tell me a little bit about the product that you sell today, so the listeners can get a clear idea of all the fantastic stuff you sell, and then I want to talk a little bit about. As you get ahead of this, I didn't realize it was so recent, but start thinking about innovation. What comes next? What are you hearing? And what are you doing here?
100%, yeah. So we've been making pickles since '48. I think the first client was Schwartz Deli. And the pickle's still there,
fantastic.
Right? And these are naturally fermented pickles, so hard to make, very artisanal, especially large scale.
When you say just for the listener, what do you mean naturally?
Salt,
fermented?
water.
Versus, so there's others that might do by chemical or some other
chemical
way.
fermentation, indoor controlled fermentation. So we do wild fermentation. So it's outside in the sun, in a barrel with salt, water, and spices basically. Dill and garlic.
Right.
That's all there is in the barrel. So you have a product that changes, on an hourly basis. So, you're testing for pH acidity, you're testing for, different factors in the barrel.
You said it's an early morning business. Why is that?
It's an early morning business. You're dealing with farmers, right? You're dealing with producers. You're getting 8-9 truckloads a day of fresh cucumbers.
And the season, the harvest is
6 weeks.
It's 6 weeks.
You got 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
To build your inventory for the year. In fresh pack, which is, pasteurized pickle and vinegar, and in building your inventory of fermented products for food service and for retail.
Wow.
So 6 weeks, you're grinding, you're not sleeping, you're working 7 days, but you can't really work 7 days. People are not allowed to work 7 days, which we should be allowed to work 7 days, but, there are rules and regulations.
Yep.
And you're just doing your best. And that's why it's, when you're taking a step back, you realize, well, we're the only large player left in this country because it's so hard. We have a 6-week crop, And
now, your main competitor in Canada, wouldn't it be Bix?
Bix is a brand, right? Bix.
It's just a brand. Okay, they don't have a plant here.
No, there are no more plants.
I thought there was
we're the largest
a
player.
Plant in Scarborough. Okay.
We're the largest. We're the last.
That's it.
The last remaining Mohican. Like we're the last surviving entity.
The last savior of the bespoke pickle.
Yes.
I love that.
There are smaller manufacturers, right?
Sure. Yeah, I talked to one near me, and they do a bunch of jars, but nothing like it.
There are small, but we
like
do
Elvis.
we do the whole U.S. The whole U.S. Canada.
So talk more about that. So how many SKUs do you have? And you say you trade here and in the U.S. Just a ballpark again, just so that
we don't have a lot of SKUs, right? Because since we do pickles, peppers, and sauerkraut, peppers, you do hot bananas, you do red bells, you do cherries, so that's 3 SKUs. Pickles, you have numerous SKUs that are based from a cucumber, though,
Sure,
so you have fermented pickles, you have shelf-stable pickles, different cuts, sweet, spicy, whatever it is, and then you have a fresh cucumber, like a garden crisp, that goes into vinegar. That's a very popular new age type of pickle that you see in plastic usually on the retail side.
Oh, I've seen those. Yeah, you pull open the package and
it's in plastic, and you have a pickle and
That's
vinegar.
pretty interesting.
But it's a fresh cuke that goes right into vinegar. Has to stay refrigerated. So when you're biting into it, on the outside it tastes like a pickle. On the inside it tastes like a cuke. So it's fresh. So it's a different thing, right?
What percentage of your business is Canadian versus U.S. ballpark?
I would say we're probably 65% in the U.S.
Oh, fantastic.
65, really?
Yeah, through one of our clients that's a partner. They've been making pickles for the past 20 years.
And you do a private label and brand.
Yes,
right.
But mostly private label.
Mostly private
until the recent rebrand that we've done because we've been asked to do it. Right. There was a big hole that got created in the market.
I was going to say, there's a space on the shelf. There's a market. There's not a solid big brand anymore. Right? Oh,
absolutely. So the brands are still out there, but the packers are not there. So now all this stuff has to be made outside of the country, and people want to deal with the local. They want a local crop, local manufacturing, encourage your local farmer. So that's who we are. That's what we offer. That really makes us unique. in our approach.
Fantastic.
So that's, we're hoping to fill a certain gap. Our clients are filling that gap already, but they're unable to fill it themselves because there's an important gap to fill, both in the food service sector and in the retail sector.
And what brings you to the show?
So what brought us to the show is that we worked very quickly on a rebrand, right? We worked on a rebrand to refresh our image. Most people don't know what Putters is, but a lot of people know a lot of the brands that we do, right? Or that we make already, right? So now, there's an opportunity for us to spread our brand across the country as well and fill that hole without necessarily cannibalizing or stepping on the feet of our existing clients. Yeah. That we have to prioritize, right? There are clients for some of them for more than 40 years.
But they know a branded product on their shelf helps their overall price and place positioning with their private label, right? You need both to have a good category growth, right?
So that's our focus now, and especially on food service. A lot of chains across Canada want a local product. They want to be able to say, hey, in my hamburger, I'm using pickles out of Ontario. Yeah. Of course that's hard to do, right? If you have a huge chain that requires 100,000 pails, well, there's only so much you can do locally. You can't make 100,000 pails in 6 weeks and sit on them, right? Yeah. So you have to spread it throughout different crops, but at least you're encouraging local producers as much as you can,
And how's the show been for you? My last question, and then I'll throw it back to Sylvain to kind of bring us home, is you had a couple of folks dressed up as giant pickles, which was a pile of fun. You had some great tasting.
Pickles on a stick. Giant pickles.
I had one of
Putters
them.
putting contest.
You guys nailed that brand. So are you happy? It's day 3. You're almost about to wrap up. You happy with the show?
We're very happy. We reconnected with people. People want to see you there, Canada's small. It's a small industry. People want to see the owners. They want to see the involvement. And a lot of people were discovering Putters as well. Oh, I know this brand, but I don't know Putters. Well, it's normal. We just launched our website 3 weeks ago. So
Exactly.
we didn't have a website for 7 years.
Freshly fermented. Freshly fermented. Well, there you go.
Well, listen, Daniel, thank you so much for coming to our booth and joining us on the Food Professor podcast. Again, I sincerely, on behalf of myself and Michael, we want to congratulate you for your success. Certainly, we know that this past year has been incredibly challenging, but kudos to you and your team. It's been great to watch, and I'm looking forward to see you again on this floor next year.
Thank you guys for the opportunity to talk. Thank you for everything.
Thanks for tuning in to our summer CL bonus interview series. Michael and I will be back live on the microphone together in late August. I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
And I'm Michael LeBlanc, media entrepreneur, consumer growth consultant, and keynote speaker. Safe travels, everyone. See you back in August.
Take care.